Tim Petrovich here for Dateline Marion, and as usual, our guest during these weeks of the fall is Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. We want to talk a little bit about this Friday's game against Centralia, but first let's talk about last week. 32-28 loss to Althoff. That one kind of stung a little bit because I think you felt like you had them and just had a couple of mistakes in the fourth quarter in their red zone that you couldn't get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, we had two opportunities, late in the game and inside the 15, I think twice, and just didn't finish. And we've been pretty good, as I know, looking at the Mascoutah game and the Cahokia game, of finishing strong and putting that final nail in the coffin on the team that we thought we had on the ropes, and we didn't do it Friday night, and that hurt. I thought we had a great week of practice. I think the game plan was on both sides for our offense and defense were very good, and the kids. The best thing is the kids were executing the game plan. You could just see it. I mean, the things that we had thought we could do, that kids were doing, and man, we just made a couple of mistakes in the red zone and couldn't recover.
Now, coaches will tell you this all the time, that you can't look at one specific play or one specific situation that was indicative of how the game came out. And you can go through that whole game and point out things that if you'd done it a little bit differently here and there. And I think particularly to the first half, when you held them, your defense held them to 2 field goals, but they had 20 points because they had 2 long kick returns for touchdowns.
Yeah, that's, to me, the difference in the ball game were those 2 special team scores. I mean, our defense had played really well, and as you said, held them to field goals. And you give up 2 scores on special teams. That's tough because, as I mentioned, when you go back and look at the film too, we're in the right spot. We've got people on those special teams at the time of the run back where people are in the right spot, and we just didn't make tackles. Give them some credit for good blocking and good running, but we didn't make tackles, and we had opportunities to make tackles. And so that's what makes it tough. There's so many things. I go back and look at the game and say, what if? And the 2 scores in the first half on special teams are big what ifs.
We have to talk about this because it's being talked about all across Southern Illinois right now. Channel 3 has two players up for their Player of the Week. The combination of David Fletcher to Jaden Lacey was particularly special Friday night.
It was, and that's a big deal. I mean, it's to do what they did on a Friday night against a really good football team, it makes it even more remarkable. I mean, if they'd have had that night against anybody, it would have been a big deal. But they went above and beyond, a normal good game in a game that meant a lot, and it was a great performance by both of them.
To give people the numbers, Fletcher 19 of 34 for 354 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Jaden with 9 catches for 190 plus yards in all 4 of those touchdowns. 2 of those touchdown catches, especially, the one that puts you ahead right at halftime. How does he get his feet down and hang on to the ball and all those things he does?
I don't know. He's just a special player, and he really, one of those. Sometimes when a player is really good at a young age, sometimes they can plateau, and I think Jaden has gone to another level in his senior year, which has really been fun to watch. And not only that, but he's been a good leader for us and been a great practice player, which I think has helped elevate some average practices to really good practices. So, he's been a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to coach, and the offensive line has done a great job, and the running backs and giving David the time to get the ball down there. And David's a very accurate deep ball thrower, and they've just been a really good combination.
Now here's where you're going to really get excited to talk about this is you see that performance and it stands out to a lot of people, but it overshadowed some performances too, and I think particularly Dylan Cannell, 7 catches for 110 yards.
Yeah, I mean that's, we've been waiting on that breakout from somebody, because Jaden is this weapon, but if he's your only weapon, then you've got issues because teams can game plan that, and then Dylan comes out with a 7 catch, over 100-yard game, and that's a big deal because that gives us the chance to say, look, you can't just focus on Jaden. We've got another weapon here, and you throw in some of our running backs, which continue to improve, and we're trying to get more weapons on the field and more guys. Saw some good things from Clayton Bastion, Stuart Atkinson, Rico Williams, Drake Gravatt. So there have been other guys stepping up, and of course Caden has been a weapon most of the year for us. So it's good to see more guys getting involved and performing at a high level.
And I wanted to bring that up. You know, you kind of expect in the situation you've been in the last couple of weeks for people like Rico and Clayton to maybe step up a little bit because they're upperclassmen. The plays, the runs in the second half by Drake Gravatt, where he was like hitting a hole very quickly and finding open space, and Stuart Atkinson with a run but also a couple of nice catches. One was kind of an awkward one-handed catch that turned, I think, a third down into a first down. So, you know, those types of things from younger players have got to be very important.
Well, yeah, I mean, you never look beyond the season you're coaching in, but you do look beyond sometimes, and you sit in those quiet moments and think, what do we have coming back? And because you're looking at, you know, who can we get in and get experience for next year, because they're going to need it, and we got to get, you know, this guy on the field or that guy on the field, or can we work this person into a situation? And I've watched a number of our juniors who weren't, and even sophomores who've not been a big part of our team, take increasingly big roles the last few weeks. And Drake is a great example of that. Stewart's a great example of that. So it's good to see guys that are going to be future Wildcat starters, or certainly players, are already having an impact this year.
Now, is this the point in the season where that you feel like that player who came in with no experience, now you can almost say they've got that season under their belt because they stepped it up a little bit?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of inexperienced players anymore. You know, we have guys that now have played 6 ball games going into their 7th week, and lots of practice and lots of game situations, and what has been a very tough 6 weeks of football. We've only had one game that wasn't close, and the others have been battles. I mean, both wins and losses, they've been battles, and I feel like our guys are really tested right now. And so the guys that have played and contributed, an example is Boston Ziegler, who we think was going to be a big-time player for us next year, and right now he's playing behind a David Fletcher that's having a great season, so he's worked in and got some time at our H-back spot and some linebacker spots. So that's a good thing, you know, and watching other guys like that step up and get some time and get some, you know, we talked about Clayton Bastion as a senior stepping up and having an impact. And so I'm just proud of the fact that more and more guys are finding a way to contribute to our success.
I talk about going up against Althoff in their second half. Justin Strong, who was playing out of position at the running back spot, really was able to make the adjustment and turn his game up a level. And he's a good player, but in different positions. You know, he's not a Division I running back. He's a Division I defensive player, and he's a pretty good receiver. But now he steps into the running back role and did a good job.
And that's because he's a really good football player. Mm-hmm. You know, and we tend to categorize guys as running backs and defensive players, and we all do that. But the bottom line is he's a football player. And I get the feeling if you played him at in numerous places, he would find a way to be a contributor. And that's the sign of a good player, a good athlete. And he certainly, trust me, it was not a surprise when we heard that he was going to be playing running back. I knew they would be okay, because even though their starter was out, I still felt like when you put a guy like that in that place, he's probably more motivated now to give his team a lift in that spot when they need it, and he certainly did that.
Let's talk about the schedule so far, because we look back and Mascouta's 2-4, but they played some pretty good competition and played some close games against some competition, beat some good teams. You've got Dunlap and Highland, who remain 3-4 in the state and undefeated. Dunlap may have beat the only team that had a shot at beating them left on their schedule when they beat Washington this past weekend. Highland, you know, continues to play well. You played Althoff last week, so Dunlap, Highland, and Althoff, 3 ranked teams ranked in the top 5 in the state. And you played right with all 3 of those teams. So given that you can, you know, it's not given, but saying you get your 5 or 6 wins and get into the playoffs, you've got to feel good now about the way you can play those teams in the playoffs too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be hard to face someone any better than the Dunlap and Highland and Althoff teams we faced, and now with Centralia coming in, I believe also state ranked. My goodness, that's a tough first 7 games, and as you mentioned, even Mascouta and Cahokia have played very good football. Their records don't indicate that, but you got to look at the strength of schedule. But it's been a tough road. I mean, we've gone down this the last couple of seasons, and I think it's grown us as a program. even the record doesn't reflect it. But we've had 7-2 seasons and so forth in the past, and I don't think those teams were any better or as good as this one. But they played a different schedule, and I think we're finding that out, that the schedule does matter, and our players are adapting. I think making a really good adjustment to what has been a tougher schedule, and my coaches, I think, have done a good job of that. But it's been tough, and it doesn't get any easier this week with the Orphans coming in.
Centralia is coming in. They are ranked 8th in the state going into last week, and of course they won their game against Cahokia last week, so no reason to think they fell any
Right.
possibly maybe
Right.
moved up a little bit. And of course, when you hear the name Centralia, when you hear about Centralia the last few years, you think of Javon Williams Jr.
Javon has been starting since late his freshman year, and has just been a real strong presence in Southern Illinois football. And certainly he may be one of the most dominating players I've ever coached against, as far as the impact he has on the field and on his teammates. He is, I'd love to tell you there's a weakness somewhere. I don't have one. Throwing, running, decision making. Javon can do it all. And we did a great job on him last year, and our kids fulfilled the game plan and limited his big plays. And we've got to duplicate that again, because he's gonna make plays. We've told the kids we're not going to stop him the whole game, but we've got to limit and contain those big plays to as few as we possibly can.
He's one of those quarterbacks that it's hard to game plan for, because if you sit back and try and keep him from running, he can throw far and accurately.
Yep.
And if you pursue him in the backfield, he can scramble and break free and get big gains that way. So it's really an important game to make sure you follow your assignments and do your homework and stay where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think the thing that scares me the most is his ability to make something out of a broken play. So let's say nobody's open and he decides to scramble and he breaks a tackle or eludes one tackler. Now everything's a wild card. Do you stay in coverage? Do you pursue? Do you come up? Do you stay back? If you stay back, I mean, there's just so many times in the film where he just makes plays out of a play that's broken down, or maybe he decides to do something different. And you've game planned for a certain way a play looks, but then he changes the dynamic completely. So there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of variables in dealing with Javon.
One of the things, and I think this is a credit to him, but one of the things that's impressed me the most about watching him play is the way he involves, whether it's him or it's the coaching staff or whatever, but the way they get the other players involved so that you cannot key on him.
Sure.
And they do a really good job of that.
They do an excellent job of it. They do a great job of coaching their kids on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and man, they always have them ready. They're always aggressive and tough, and people believe that, I think when the season started, that Centralia was a one-person team, and that is not the case at all. And I wish I would have seen the film and said to myself, okay, so Javon's it. He's not. They got good running backs. They got good receivers. They are doing a good job on defense, a really good job on defense. And so I see a very well-rounded football team that it does have a superstar on it, if you want to call him that, at the high school level, but they've got other weapons. And those kids, when you try to make Javon the focus, those guys can make you pay.
And they're familiar names, kids who played a lot last year. The running back, his first name's Tyrese. I studied it and I knew it before I came, and you lose it, but he's back. He had some significant yards last year in the game. You have 2 or 3 receivers who are names that were back from last year. So that there's players, and it's that program. It's taking that program where Marion used to be to where it's become. Now Centralia's kind of become that, because they have kids who step in year out and keep that program consistent.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the mark of a good program, and they graduate good kids, and they still have kids stepping up, and we've been very blessed to be in that situation, and that's where you want to get your program. So it's not just about, we have a good class, let's have success. It's about, regardless of graduation, let's try to reload this program and keep the good players coming in, keep players developing players in the off season and in the season, and Centralia is doing that.
What did you see when they played Althoff that made them be able to get that win?
I thought they played extremely hard and very aggressive against Althoff, and And I think they frustrated Althoff. I think Althoff got out of its game a little bit, and credit to Centralia for doing that. That's what you want to do, is get a team out of their game. But I thought they did a great job of tackling and pursuing, and I think they frustrated Althoff. And I think Althoff, by admission, says that they didn't play well. And sometimes you don't play well, and sometimes that's on you, and sometimes it's on your opponents who take you out of your game by being maybe better than you think they're going to be, or being doing something game plan wise that frustrates you or your kids, and so it can get you out of your element a little bit. You got to be careful.
And now we've talked about this several years in a row, and then this is the homecoming game, and we've talked about the kids enjoying homecoming and being part of that. But I kind of want to take a different approach to this. As you see all the activities that go on in the week, do you encourage the kids on the football team to participate in a lot of those activities?
Yeah. Look, homecoming is a mighty rushing river, and you can do your best to try to stand in the water and stop it from happening, but you're just going to get taken away. So it's much easier to sit back and try to navigate that river with your players than try to fight it. So I came into this school several years ago, and I tried to do some things to curtail my players' activities, and maybe it worked a little, maybe it didn't. I ruffled some feathers, and maybe I've grown a little wiser in my old age. But I want the kids to be involved and have fun, but also remain focused. And so what we do now is we let the kids participate and have some fun, but remind them that our job for homecoming is to win the game. We're not float builders. We're not putting on musical parodies. What we do is we enjoy the festivities to a certain level, and then we pull back a little bit, come to practice, have great practice, and just enjoy the experience. Don't take it from them, but limitations.
Well, one of the neat things I do, and there's always the bonfires and the powder puff games and dressing up as twins or whatever you do during the week, and all that the dance and the parade. Yeah. But one of the neat things I think they do, and it's the whole athletic program, not just the football team, but I know the football team's a part of it, and that's going down to the elementary schools and having breakfast with the younger kids.
Well, here's the way I think you do it. Homecoming is seen by a lot of coaches, including myself, over time to be a big distraction to what the kids have to do at the game. Well, what we've tried to do is have the kids look at all the activities as reminders of the game. So when they go down to the junior high and they sign autographs and have breakfast, the kids are excited about the fact you're a football player. Don't forget that. So when we go through town in the parade, we see the fans cheering and the kids got their Wildcat paws on their hands or their Wildcat masks on. It's a reminder that we're playing for more than just ourselves, that we're playing for our community and for our school, and to represent our town in this ball game against another rival community. So I think we've just tried to make the activities a reminder of the importance of the game and the importance of the role we play as athletic ambassadors to our school. So it's made it easier on me to not try to fight everything, but I trust my kids. Most of my kids do a great job of reining themselves in when they get a little out of control. But our school does a great job. They have a great homecoming, and the people behind it, Marty Cameron and the others, just do an excellent job. So I'm pretty proud of it. I want the kids to enjoy it, but we'll don't forget our jobs to win the ball game.
Well, and I think one good way to help them focus on the fact that there's a ball game Friday night is that if you win this game Friday and you win the game next Friday against Carbondale, and I know you're not looking at Carbondale till this game's over, but should you win those two games, the Wildcats get a share of the conference title.
They do, and our kids know that. I mean, it's something we've talked about, that every goal we had for the season is still in play. A conference title, a playoff appearance, a winning season. Every goal we've set is still on the table. So we still have a chance at every goal, and here we are, week 7. A lot of teams can't say that. So it is a big deal. We do want to get this game, and so we have a chance to play Carbondale for the championship. But it's big. So we're excited about the opportunity and the challenge of taking on the Centralia Orphans.
It's Marion and Centralia, homecoming game Friday night at 7 o'clock here at Wildcat Stadium. That's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. For Dateline Marion, I'm Tim Petrovich.